the Marc Patrone radio program, heard exclusively on News Talk, Saga 960.
And we are back with more News Talk. So glad you could join us on this midweek edition of the show. Let's listen to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi now talking about impeachment, and I guess they're going to be moving the articles of impeachment over to the Senate at some point. I understand it's going to happen this week, but here is Pelosi talking about how the people of the United States should know that it's up to them to decide who's president, not up to Vladimir Putin. Let's listen to Nancy.
Associated really drawn that further proves the president was an central player in the scheme to pressure Ukraine for his own benefit in the 2020 election. This is about the Constitution of the United States, and it's important for the president to know and Putin to know. The American voters in America should decide who our president is, not Vladimir Putin in Russia.
What is wrong with Nancy? She's I don't know. Miles Kristen is joining us from Madison, Wisconsin. He's with Wisconsin International Radio. Sometimes when she starts talking, she sounds just like a blabbermouth. I don't know. Does she have like a medical issue that I don't know about, Miles?
I mean, it's no attack on senior citizens, but I mean, it's not exactly a young person. I mean, it's to be the Speaker of the House and to be in such position of power is maybe not something for her age bracket to be doing when, hey, I didn't like Paul Ryan that much, but I mean, that was more of a, he's a little bit younger,
So, I mean, what is she's in her 80s now, right? She's, I don't even know how old she is. I think she's 80-something, mid-80s? Is she that?
It's strange that her district is San Francisco, and, she kind of represents this elite of the elite of San Francisco, and, San Francisco's got its problems, but you think somebody maybe a little younger, more charismatic than Nancy Pelosi.
But she's awfully rich, and obviously she's got, I don't know, is this it for her? I mean, is she going to continue being in that role? I mean, I guess they were trying to push her out. She's got the left wing of the party that has had her in their sights, the AOC of the world, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the Squad, the far left wing of the defense of the Democrat Party. They don't like her. They want her gone so that the more progressive wing can take over. But
sorry to cut you off, but that's the problem with the Democratic Party. You have two choices. You either have this war hawk, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, not conservative, but like
Hillary Clinton,
the kind of wing of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And then you've got the AOC, Bernie Sanders, give everything away for free. And there's nobody in the party that's like, okay, you want this thing provided by the government, here's a way to pay for it. Here we'd have to cut defense spending, and then we can provide tech school for so many years, or some sort of middle ground. Or they don't have that like common sense person in the middle. It's either war hawk, or they don't even talk about war, and they just promise you free stuff on the other side.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But now you've got quite a rift that's developed between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren now at each other's throats. The two of them, I guess, stood on the same stage last night. There was another debate. And when it came time to shaking hands, Bernie stuck his hand out, and Elizabeth Warren said, I'm not taking your hand. What's up with that?
It's funny. I said it a while ago. It's like their groups of their voters are so much alike that it had 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, they just realized that if the two of them had united and one of them agreed to be the vice presidential candidate, they probably could have actually taken up a majority of the Democratic Party and defeated Biden and the others. But, that's the problem with everybody running is they're so narcissistic that they all of these different people running. I mean, at least some of them are starting to have the sense to drop out because they realize they might be the vice presidential candidate then. But it's the differences between Biden and the Elizabeth Warren camp. They're not that big of a difference. I mean, it's the same kind of weak progressivism and idiotic logic. And
although she's got some of the more upper echelon of people, because I guess that's the knock against her, at least according to some of the Bernie supporters, that she's sort of more of an elitist, out of touch with the regular working people. And Bernie's...
She's a proven liar. I mean, she lied about, being Native American. She lied about her job record and why she was fired or left a job. She's lied multiple times.
I hear that Bernie was booted out of a commune. I heard this yesterday. He was actually booted out of a commune way back when because he didn't do any work. So he loved to talk about the glories of socialism, but when it came time to pulling his own weight, Bernie didn't, and they finally said, look, man, you got to go.
That must have been I think they're called the kibbutz or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, the kibbutz.
Here's the thing about Bernie, is that, so you have the Bernie Sanders type of socialism, right? And then you've got Elizabeth Warren progressivism, and then it's then you got somebody like Jill Stein in the Green Party that's like actual progressivism, and then you have also these actual socialist groups who don't vote for Democrats. So understanding the differences between those groups, it's important, because Bernie Sanders, as much as we call him a socialist, he's really not a socialist. He's like a socialist mixed with a lot of cronyism.
Yeah, but some of the people on his team, though, they're a little scary, at least certainly based on what we've been hearing in this latest Project Veritas tape, this recording, a number of recordings that were made surreptitiously with a number of Bernie supporters. The one we've heard of lately, most recently, is a guy who was advocating for the rounding up of Trump supporters, re-education camps, talking about the glories of gulags, and even suggesting that some of the more moderate liberals in the media at MSNBC, for instance, and other media sites would have to be hauled out of their studios onto the street and set on fire. I mean, this guy is way out there. This is a scary time.
I'm not surprised either. I mean, I have dealt with a lot of Bernie Sanders volunteers / staff over the last year. And, I mean, definitely should make a distinction between those people who, they don't know too much about Bernie. They don't really know his track record, so they like him, and they're going to vote for him. And then there's those who actually, volunteer for him or work for him. And the people working for Bernie, I mean, I've gone to farmers markets here in Madison where I try to ask them simple questions about Bernie's taking money from the military defense industry. And they're like, we're not going to talk to you. You're harassing us. Go away. And it's like, you're at a public square with a table, putting out literature. You have a political agenda. People are going to ask you questions, and you're calling the police on me for asking you a question in public. I went to a Bernie rally here in Madison last year when he came, and this one guy, I've got like an hour-long set of footage with him, and I'm just trying to ask him simple questions, and everything is he's turning the question back to me. Who am I? Who am I recording for? What is my agenda? And I'm asking him simple questions about the F-35. He doesn't even know what the F-35 is. I'm asking him about how Bernie's campaign compares to the Obama's campaign, and he goes, that's a long time ago. Why does that matter? And it's just these Bernie people are insane.
Yeah, but Miles, if they take over, if they win, at least if you believe this guy, I mean, you heard him. Guys like you could be in a lot of trouble. They're talking about murdering 25 million people who won't give in to their point of view. And it's like water off a duck's, water off a duck's back with these people. To them, it's like, yeah, we may have to kill 25 million or so, if re-education doesn't work, or if they don't come around, if they refuse to give up on capitalism. These people are, billionaires, rich people who just refuse to go along. You're all going to be rounded up. And if you're not, you're sent to a gulag. And if you don't come around, well, we're just going to have to kill you. That's what this guy is saying. And he's saying it in a kind of a matter-of-fact way, saying, well, it's just the way it's got to be.
I mean, Bernie puts out a lot of crazy rhetoric. And, his supporters, it's like I didn't see these people in the years of George W. Bush, and I think the entire time Barack Obama was president, a lot of them were just like, oh, happy Debbie, everything's fine, ignoring it, off partying, and then Trump got elected, and it's like, oh my God, there's something wrong with the government, and they think it's all Trump, and they don't realize it's, government itself, and I mean, these Bernie people that I interact with, it's like they're just taking everything to such an extreme. And, like I said before, it's like, why is it that if Bernie is this, socialist hero, then like why are there actual socialist groups who don't vote for the Democratic Party? So you've got these people who like they want a socialist revolution, but they still want to stay within the frame of the Democratic Party. It makes no sense. I mean, real socialists, I don't agree with them, but hey, at least they're not selling out to the Democratic Party,
Yeah, right. Well, the Jill Steins of the world, they're more purists when it comes to socialism, I suppose. Let's talk impeachment, though. There's some rumblings amongst conservatives that there are some in the Republican side in the Senate that will support witnesses coming forward and that may even be open to voting in favor of impeachment. Do you buy into that? Is there some actual possibility here that Trump could be booted?
No, I really, really doubt it. I mean, at most, I could see maybe 4 or 5 of the Republican senators being in support of it. But you would need so many more senators to support it. And this whole Ukraine thing, it's just kind of like the Russiagate 2.0. I mean, it's so similar. Like, they're making this crazy conspiracy that Trump was doing all this stuff with the Ukraine and then ignoring all the stuff that the Bidens did. And, I mean, it's all corrupt, but it's still on the level of, if that's going to be the standard that we're going to impeach him over, asking a foreign country to do something that, then, God, I mean, think of all the things Obama did and presidents before him, and I really don't think Trump will get impeached, and I think in the end he's just going to use it, and it's going to rile his base. I mean, last night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Trump had a huge rally, and it's like when the Democrats finally pick their person and have a rally here in Wisconsin, it's not going to be 10, 20,000 people like that.
No, Milwaukee. I mean, that used to be a blue city, wasn't it, at one point? I mean, it kind of illustrates how the middle class, the working class in the United States has gravitated towards Trump, whereas they used to be solidly Democrat voters.
Well, the city of Milwaukee is very Democrat. We're very corrupt, crony Democrats. Like the mayor of the city's brother just happened to be the guy who puts in the trolley for the city and, crap like that. Or the Milwaukee Bucks arena that I talk a lot about, which was $250 million of the taxpayer money that went to the corrupt cronyism in the Democrats in the city. All the suburbs, the county itself, super conservative.
Really? Interesting. Well, we'll have to see how this whole thing plays out as far as impeachment is concerned. But I guess the Democrats are going to have to choose their person pretty soon, is going to a vote. I'm hearing that Bernie could actually be the guy. That, in fact, because Biden has seemed so weak in certain respects and that he's implicated in what happened in Ukraine, of course, far more so than the president, between him and Hunter getting money out of Ukraine, and it just appears that they were paid off in order to, I guess, to provide favors for big oil in Ukraine. I mean, and then you add to that Hillary's campaign paying for dirt on Trump from sources in Russia and or Ukraine. I mean, it's such a circus down there. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, there is the possibility, I think it's called a brokers' convention, that no matter who wins whatever electoral points or votes during this primary season, they could still go to the convention, which isn't going to be in Milwaukee, at that very same arena that I always talk about that the taxpayers paid for, that they might all go to Milwaukee, and then the people there at the convention are going to go with Biden anyway. And sadly, like, Wisconsin Democrats would go with Biden. I think Bernie could have won in 2016 had the Hillary and the DNC and all those people not done what they did. But 2020, I don't think Bernie would win if he becomes the candidate. Their strongest candidate is actually Tulsi Gabbard, but she's pretty much done at this point. They've, taken away any chance of her actually winning. And
Yeah, she's a Russian asset, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. In
According to the
2016, they kind of had this attitude of like, you don't like Hillary, but just shut up and vote for her. And now it's and when she was actually like the worst candidate, and now you've got Tulsi Gabbard who could actually get non-Democratic voters to vote for her. And it's like they didn't give her a chance. And it's like, that was your strongest candidate. That was your best candidate. And they're just going to, I mean, more and more people have found out about Bernie and, like, where he really stands and all the crazy things about Bernie, his military contributions. And, he's just a cranky old man. You can find some good footage of Bernie from a Vermont town hall, probably 2014 or 2015, before he first started running for president. And he's basically telling constituents to shut up because they're criticizing him on countries that he supports and so forth.
He's really nasty. Maybe somebody will pick Tulsi as a running mate, but it's kind of hard to see. Maybe Mayor Pete, Tulsi. That would be an interesting combo. But who knows?
He's not mayor anymore. He's just Pete.
He's just Pete. He's not mayor anymore.
Mayor. He's not
I just
mayor
call him mayor.
Of January 1st.
He reminds me of a young Jimmy Carter for some reason. Thank you so much. Really appreciate this, Miles.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, Miles Kristen from Wisconsin International Radio. Check that out. And always great having Miles on the show.